Welcome to the Financial Armor Show. My name is Brad Cooper, president of Cooper Financial Investments. And I want to welcome, as always, my amazing co-host, Tony Shore. Happy New Year, Tony. How are you doing today?
Happy New Year, Brad. Yeah, I'm doing great. January, I'm a little cold up here in my home state of Minnesota. I need to get back down there to God's country, Arizona, where it's a little nicer. We were talking about the weather beforehand, and there's been some pretty bad cold weather, ice and snow across the country. But you guys, this is the time of year to be down there, isn't it?
You know why? I'm just so thankful and so blessed. I just looked at the 7-day forecast, and I think the coldest high day we may have this week is 75. So
Nice.
75 to 80, sunny, blue skies. So come on down, Tony, because I know how cold did it get last night? Did you say?
When I woke up
Minnesota?
this morning at 6 a.m., which is probably our low for the day, it was -13. That was the actual temp, -13.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And I think we're up to +10. So it's been quite a swing today, but we're going to be back down there again tonight. It's going to stay cold. We're going to be below zero for our lows every night and early morning, and then in single digits, I think, later this week for highs. So that's not good.
Wow.
Yeah.
So help our listeners understand, Tony, why someone would like to stay in Minnesota in the wintertime.
It doesn't. Yeah, there's no logic behind it because January is the coldest. Never come to Minnesota in January or February. They are the coldest months, especially January is usually the coldest, and sometimes the first 2 weeks in February can also be the coldest. It is really cold up here those 2 months. The rest of the year, though, well, especially summer and fall here are beautiful. We have lots of lakes. The people are great. Super nice people live here. And those are good reasons. But the older I get, the less it makes sense. And I'm like, why? I ask myself that every single winter because we have like 6 months of winter. It's like, why do we have 6 months of winter? That's half a year. And so I asked myself, why do we live here? And the scientific term for what we go through in January, I believe the scientific term is stupid cold. It's stupid cold right now.
It is. It's crazy cold.
I think that's the scientific term.
Then I can make an argument and make you feel a little bit better. You know, I could bring you down to sunny, hot, miserable Arizona in August when it's 115 degrees.
We could hang out in the valley in July and August. Is that what you're saying?
But you know what I found the difference? Because my first visit, I don't know if I shared this with you, is probably 10, 15 years ago. First visit to Minnesota was January 11th.
Oh, no.
The wind chill was -30.
Yep.
I never been so cold in my entire life. So I've experienced that. Plus, I've experienced hot. And I don't like either. But if I had to tolerate one or the other, I think it would be 115 because you can sit in the pool, stay in the pool if you have to be outside during that time period.
True. And, I mean, I don't know how many days above 110 you have there versus how many days we have that are probably 10 degrees and colder, but we do have a lot as well of that. So it's mix and match, but I would take dry heat like you have over the freezing, frigid temps and below zero wind chills and temps. I would also probably prefer that. What I would rather live here, though, than in a state that gets up to 90 plus and has the humidity. Yeah, like Savannah, Georgia, or a lot of the state of Florida. It gets so humid there. In the summer, it can get humid here. I mean, if we hit 90 in the summer, it's brutal because we have humidity here. So that's not good either. But we hardly have any days like that where it's unbearable heat and humidity. So
maybe we're not as smart. We're still in the ignorant stage because you're in Minnesota all year round. I'm in Arizona all year round. But you know who the most brilliant people are? And we have many of them.
The snowbirds.
The snowbirds.
Yeah.
They figured this thing out 20, 30 years ago. And
they fly south in the winter and fly back north in the summer.
Perfect living. So So that's a good leeway into our show, Tony,
Sure.
because maybe, the conversation we just had as a motivator for you, if you're in Minnesota or here in Arizona and you're looking at maybe wanting to buy a second home and you don't know if you can handle the money or if you have enough money, that's where we can come into play. But Tony, today's topic we're going to talk about are the top mistakes retirees make in retirement and really how to avoid some of these common pitfalls, I call them, and be on track for financial well-being.
Yeah.
We all have resolutions to get healthy, and most of those fall off, after the end of this month, beginning of February. But what we're going to talk about today is just some common sense, topics which we talked about in the past on really, being in a good spot for the rest of
Yeah.
your life.
Well, yeah, and you do wanna I know that, you've been doing this a long time, helping people with not only financial and investment planning, but overall retirement planning, which is part of that big picture. And I know that you've seen so much where you've seen the mistakes people have made when they come to you and you see their situation and the pitfalls to avoid. So
Right.
let's talk about some of those. I think knowing what the top mistakes are that retirees can make in retirement or in retirement planning is going to be helpful to all of us. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the number one thing I'm seeing more often than not, which is very sad. We've had several clients fall victim to this, family members as well, and that's falling victim to scams
Oh,
or fraud. It's unfortunate today, Tony, but retirees are often targeted by these financial scams. And what's crazy is now with AI, artificial intelligence, they're really getting these evil people, I call them, much smarter, sophisticated, and targeting and really stealing, I guess is the better
yeah.
term,
Yeah. It's terrible.
millions from retirees. Just one example I'll share with you, Tony. This happened about a year ago to a client. They received a phone call and they thought it was their daughter.
Oh,
Daughter calls, several times a week, wonderful relationship. She lives in a different state. And then two guys got on the phone and said, if you don't send us $5,000 by the end of the day, your daughter's dead. And then you hear her in the background, Tony, please, mom, dad, help. I don't want to die.
oh my
So
God.
they
Just the
run,
emotional,
it is.
that's so terrible.
So they run to the bank. They're
Oh,
just a mess. And long story short, they send the $5,000.
oh no.
They're back home, just stressed to the till. Older couple, been retired for many years. And just out of the blue, that evening, the daughter calls and just checking on, parents. How you doing? And oh my gosh, are you okay? Well, what do you mean? And then they found out it was a true scam and they
Yeah.
were out that money. But it didn't stop there, Tony, because I can imagine going through that, number one, at
No,
any age. But
no.
secondly, just because of the stress and what these evil scammers did caused this client to have a stroke 2 weeks
Oh,
later.
oh no. Yeah,
So,
the stress.
and that's just one of probably a dozen stories I could share with you, as
So
far as,
sad.
and I don't care how young you are, how intelligent you are, it doesn't matter. They're good. Especially, I'll share one other story real quick because this happened to me personally. Number one, we renovated our office a couple years ago, had a construction crew come in for almost a year to renovate.
Yep.
And along the way, I was, getting emails, making payments to the contractors. Everything was good. We were probably 3 or 4 months away from being, done with the project. Got another email and sent some money. But guess what happened?
What?
They didn't send the email. Their
Oh
computer
no.
system got hacked, and the email that was sent was identical, you know, from the company, email addresses, names, everything. So the money never got recovered.
Wow.
So it can happen to anybody.
Yeah,
So,
it really can. Yeah.
and because of that, Tony, and since I'm talking about falling victim to scams or fraud, it's been a couple years since Cooper Financial has done this, but most likely this fall, we're going to host a big, event on how to protect your identity, how to protect yourself
Oh, that's a
from
great
fraud,
idea.
from scams. And last time I did this, I had the Attorney General's office in,
Oh, wow.
and what value, what information, education they brought to our clients and the public was just priceless.
Yeah.
And I just sat back, and we get trained and we go through training and education often on these types of scams. But after that event, Tony, I just walked away saying, if I was an evil person and wanted a career change, I could make a lot of money doing what they're doing. It's
Yeah.
just crazy. You can't even I don't even see how people can sit around and think about the things they're doing to people. So, but that's one event that I'm really excited about, doing here in the months to come, probably this fall.
Well, I mean, that's very helpful. That's gonna be great for the community and for people and your clients to come and listen to that, the people you work with, because they are getting so sophisticated, these
Yes,
scams, yeah. So that's a big, mistake, a pitfall to avoid. Try to not fall victim. If you get a call or, a text or an email, ignore it. If it's
exactly.
not through somebody you've heard of, or they're asking for money, or they put pressure on you to do something, I just hang up. They'll,
Right.
if it's important, it'll get sorted. You don't just ignore them. I do. I
You
do.
have to. You
Yeah.
have to. And
Yeah.
when in doubt, I advise our clients, if you're in doubt, have any questions, call our office
Yeah.
and we will assist in that, which we have for many of our clients.
Yeah.
So that's a huge one. Another area which we talked a lot about, Tony, which I'm going to address again, and this is on the list too. It's a huge mistake, and it's not updating your estate plan.
Oh,
I was talking to our estate planning specialist, strategic partner, the other day, and he just shared with me an updated study that was done. And the study basically stated nationwide, the average family, average person that has an estate plan, a trust, all right, about 77% of those trust estate plans are not funded properly. What does that mean? Maybe you have paid an attorney to establish a trust. Well, until things are put inside the trust, it's just paperwork. Is your house inside the trust? Have you changed your beneficiaries over to the trust name? The whole goal is to stay out of probate court. And
yes.
if something is not in the trust or a beneficiary designation doesn't state the trust, guess what happens? You're
It
going to
goes to
probate.
court, and it costs a lot more money than just setting up the trust does.
That's right.
And it can cost a lot of money and take a lot of time and put your loved ones in a bad situation, right?
It does. And I'm real excited. We've had on my friend, estate planning attorney CJ Eager, in the
Yeah,
past. We're going to have him on here in the next month as a guest again.
he's
But
great.
he's expanded his services, Tony, which I think is brilliant because not too many attorneys are doing this at all. And that is, yes, we can help you with an estate plan, a trust, or well, whatever is in your best interest. But let's say it's a trust. Then we're going to take it to the next level. Their office, their staff will make sure and follow through every account you have, every piece of property you have, a business, whatever the case may be. They're going to do everything for you and give you proof of it. They'll keep proof of it. And then
Nice.
ongoing, at least once a year, follow up. Tony, have you made any new purchases? Have you opened up any new accounts? Oh, you told me about the new house you bought in Colorado. Did we put that in the trust? No. So I think that's a brilliant follow up service just to make sure everything gets done properly.
Yeah. I think so too. I think that's really, really important. So you've got to update those beneficiary designations. You should look at those at least once a year in case life
Yes.
changes. People get married. There's marriage, birth, death, divorce. Any of those things,
Right.
you probably need to update your will, update the trust, make sure everything's in the trust, and update your beneficiaries, right?
You bring up a good point. Unfortunately, we lost to death about a half a dozen clients the
Yeah.
last probably 4 to 5 months.
Oh,
Very
wow.
sad
In that time, that's a
in that
lot.
time
Yeah.
frame, especially over the holidays. Very
Yeah.
sad. But I was just reminded a couple weeks ago. I met with the widow and their family, and we're going through all their accounts they have with Cooper Financial. And one thing that gets overlooked, which is so common, is when we're going through all their accounts, the primary beneficiary was the husband who passed away. And most likely that does not get changed
Yeah. Yeah.
because most companies, Tony, and you know this, are not going to sit down with the widower, and their family. And not only do we do that, we normally have our attorney in there. We'll do a complete beneficiary audit. We'll update everything. And then, of course, usually with every account, you have to change over and change ownership from the deceased spouse to the surviving spouse. The paperwork is about this thick. If you're listening, picture 3 inches.
Oh,
And guess whose responsibility it is to make sure that's completed in a perfect order? That's yours with all these companies. We'll take that paperwork. We'll help you fill that out completely. We'll send that in for you. So that's just probably a different show, different topic. I could talk a
sure.
lot about just that
Yeah.
service we
We'll have
do.
to have your attorney friend on again and talk about that.
Absolutely. But probably the next topic, which is a big mistake, and it's timely because we're approaching February.
Yep.
It's tax season.
Taxes. Yes.
So, how to, avoid neglecting proper tax planning? Most
Yeah.
people, have not planned, and they just do what most people do. They gather all their information. They just take it to their CPA. They take it to their accountant. They drop it off. Then 2 or 3 weeks later, they'll pick it up. But there's no planning whatsoever. And, the timeliness of this, recording, Tony, is very good because February 24th, if you're listening, Tuesday morning, February 24th, we're having Ed Slott, who's been a guest a couple
Oh,
times, in the last year on our show.
yeah.
Ed Slott, the number one tax expert in the nation. He's flying in from New York, and he's going to speak to all of our clients, friends of our clients, and even the public. We're expecting a large,
Yeah.
probably full capacity turnout. And he's even offered, Tony, to autograph and give you his most recent book on
That's
tax
awesome.
planning and how to avoid the ticking time bomb,
Yeah.
because we are experiencing the best of the best tax rates right now. They're the lowest, but that will change. But again, Tuesday, February 24th, and I'll go ahead and plug our website, edslotevent.com. edslotevent.com. You can go to, if you're listening, register now while seats are still available.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a fantastic, and we've had him on the show a
Yes.
couple of times, and he's just fantastic. And of course, you've worked alongside Ed and gotten to know him really well. And he's always on, Fox Business or CNBC,
Right.
Bloomberg, talking about tax situations. And I just want to say that that website is edslotevent.com, correct?
That's correct.
And it's Ed is ED, just like it sounds. Slot is with 2 T's,
Right.
SLOTT. So that's 2 T's, right?
That's 2 T's, and this is a complimentary event, no cost. And we're even going to serve breakfast buffet to all who attend. And that event's going to be here right in Mesa, Gilbert area off
Yep.
Greenfield and 60. Very
Nice.
good location. So I wanted to at least mention
Food,
that.
autographed book, and you get to see Ed Slott, probably meet him, and hear
Yes.
some of the expert tax advice on how you can save money on your taxes. That's wow, what a great event.
And I can promise you that what he's going to share, especially the timeliness of him coming in, guess what passed last year? It was the Big Beautiful Bill Act.
Yep.
And he's going to talk about that, break that down, how that will impact and help you personally. Then in addition to that, he's going to talk about two of the most common tax-free strategies to start reallocating your money from taxable IRA, 401k money to tax-free. And Tony, still today, I'm just amazed at the conversations I have. And this is still a foreign topic in conversation for most people. Why CPAs, why financial planners are not addressing this more seriously? I can tell you why. And I address this in my meetings the same way as I'm addressing it here. It takes time.
Yeah.
Most of my industry, not all, there's some really good advisors and really good CPAs out there, but the majority, they just don't want to take the time, or they're not educated on that conversation. But we are experiencing the best time ever for tax planning. But make sure you're working with a good tax planning accountant or CPA that does planning instead of just order taking. And that's one of the benefits that you can receive here through Cooper Financial. We have the best, in my opinion, strategic partners who do tax planning for our clients.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is really, really important, tax planning. And that's where a lot of people do make that's where the top mistakes are made, and can be very costly, is not minimizing that tax burden. I'm glad you're having that event. What's the next mistake that retirees make in retirement that you want to talk about?
This is kind of tied to taxes because it impacts your taxes, is not taking your RMD. What's an RMD? Required minimum distribution. If you're not certain what an RMD is, or maybe you never heard of an RMD, as of this year, when you turn 73, by the year 2033, that will change to 75 as of now, unless they change the law. But once you turn 73, the IRS now states that you are required to take a minimum distribution from your IRAs, 401ks, anything pre-taxed, whether you want the money or not. Now, you do have a choice, Tony. I don't know if you knew this or not. You don't have to take it.
Right.
But guess what happens?
You'll pay.
Only 50% of the RMD. Then you're taxed on top of that. But
yeah, you'll have to pay a penalty, and sometimes it's less, 25%, but still a 25% penalty and pay the taxes. That's crazy. That's a huge cost.
But one of many things that we're sharing with our clients, which is so exciting because, there's a lot of clients that need the RMDs if they're, forced to take them. There's a lot of our clients that, because of the RMDs, once they take those, that could put them in a higher tax bracket and cause them to pay even more taxes. So there is a solution of minimizing or not paying any taxes whatsoever on an RMD. Let me just plug this real quick. I've maybe discussed this a little bit in the past, but here's another legal way, according to the IRS, that you can not pay taxes on IRA distributions or RMDs. Here's the law. You got to be 70 and a half or older. And I forget what 2026 is, but you can give away up to like $110,000 of your IRA, or you can give a portion or all of your required minimum distribution to a charity, to a nonprofit, to a church. The legal term for this is a qualified charitable distribution, QCD, qualified charitable distribution. And this is just a wonderful way. I bet 9 out of 10 conversations I have with new people, Tony, I ask them, especially if they're over 70 and a half, do you give? Do you give to charities? Do you give to church? Most of my prospects? Yes, we do. And then the next question I ask, well, how do you give? Then, of course, I get a weird look. Yes, I write a check. Now, if we have any young listeners out there and you're not certain with what writing a check means, email us.
Yeah, exactly. I realize under a certain age, you're probably not writing a check to anybody, but you're still taking money that'll eventually come out of your checking account that you've paid tax on. And the key is what you're saying, I hear, is that you can use money that you don't have to pay tax on and avoid paying taxes on that money then, right?
Absolutely. Probably the quick story, and I know we're running out of time, but this happened about 3 years ago, Tony. I sat down with a couple, 78 years of age, and they had about 3.8 to 4 million of IRA money. Very, very good. They've saved a lot of money.
Impressive.
But even more impressive is when I had the conversation about, do you give? They were very, they sat up tall and said, yes, we love giving. We give $100,000 a year to our church.
Wow.
I said, wow, that is such a blessing. I hope I could do that someday.
Sure.
But then I'll never forget the next question I asked is, well, how do you give that? And the wife pulled out her checkbook and said, I write a check, Brad. They saw the look on my face. They said, why? Well, never once did their CPA nor their financial planner, advisor, investment person, whoever it was, never once did they say, if you would have been paying that directly out of your IRA and that went directly to the church, you would have zero taxes on that money.
Yeah.
So
and taxes on $100,000 is nothing to sneeze at because they would be in the top tax bracket. So that's probably, 24 to 30%.
Well, 30% of 100 grand each year is 30,000 times 7 years, over 210,000 plus state taxes.
Yikes.
Which they did not have to pay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share that story because, I'm finding that most people who do give, when I say most, probably 80 to 90% are not familiar with qualified charitable distributions. So,
and that's a costly mistake that people need to be aware of. I'm glad you brought that up. That's huge.
But just a couple real quick, we don't have time to get into, but here's some other areas that you need to bring to your accountant or CPA's attention. Ignoring healthcare costs. A lot of times those are deductible. Failing to adjust investments for risk. And last but not least is underestimating living expenses, which doesn't have to be talked about too much. Look at inflation the last several years. It is getting better, but anyway, those are just some of the common pitfalls and mistakes we see daily
that you want to avoid in retirement. And but the bottom line here, Brad, for our listeners who are asking, okay, how do I avoid these mistakes? You've talked a bit about that. But the bottom line is you avoid those mistakes by having a plan in place to deal with it and working with a trusted financial services professional, a fiduciary. And that's what you and the team there at Cooper Financial do. So before we go, how can our listeners get a hold of you and the team there at Cooper Financial to set up a consultation to ask more questions or get that plan in place or get a second opinion on where they are at if they feel they currently have a plan but want to make sure they're not making any costly mistakes?
Absolutely. Here's what I found in life. People just don't know what they don't know. So call our office, email us. There's no cost. We'll sit down over a cup of coffee and answer all the questions and make sure that you are avoiding the common pitfalls and mistakes that most people make. You can call our office directly. We have a toll-free number, 888-390-5277. Again, that's 888-390-5277. Or you can go to our website, financialarmorshow.com. Again, that's financialarmorshow.com and ask that question, or you can set up a consultation through our website as well. And we'd be more than happy to just sit down and have a conversation and give you the best education you probably had in years.
All right. Sounds great, Brad. And that does it. Listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of the Financial Armor Show with our host, Brad Cooper.
Thank you, Tony.